Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. Next on our agenda is appointment of board member and then the board reorganization. Claudine Diaz has resigned as of yesterday, so we have one open seat that the board will be able to fill.
Do you have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate and request approval for Jolene Cooley from the Finance Committee.
Second? Any other nominations? Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Jolene, congratulations.
Good luck.
Next on that same agenda item is to reorganize the board as far as the officer positions.
We only have an open officer position for the treasurer now. Do we have a nomination for treasurer?
I make a motion that Jolene Cooley be nominated for treasurer.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that Jolene be appointed as the treasurer for the association. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next are our announcements, just a few real quick. First is the street slurry. We had slurry done last, I believe, November, going up Four Seasons Circle, and Claudia Rossi kindly pointed out that there's a section that is not covered correctly. It's covered under warranty, and the vendor will be back in September to fix that at no cost to the association. And we'll have dates as it gets closer to that time. We are going to be sending out some rules, about 30 pages of changes to architectural guidelines and other amenities in the association. That will go out by tomorrow. We'll be sending that out via e-blast. We'll also have it posted in the lodge and ready. You can pick it up from the lodge as well. If we mailed it out to everybody, it'd be a little over $3,000 to mail that out to everyone. Also, there's a community planning and transition survey that's out, so please fill that out to help us decide where to go next. And then also my monthly please slow down and yield at all the different traffic circles. Next is homeowner input. As a reminder, it's limited to 3 minutes per homeowner, and only one request to speak form may be submitted per homeowner. There will be no sharing or passing of time to another person. Homeowner input may be held for a maximum period of 30 minutes before the board meeting begins to allow the board to proceed with the business portion of the meeting. This portion of the meeting is limited to board participation only. Residents are welcome and encouraged to stay for the full meeting to witness the business of the corporation taking place by your governing agents. And I have 2 requests to speak. First is Ed Stout. Ed? Mr. Stout? Here to speak. If you could come up to the podium, please.
Board President, members of the board, thank you for having me and hearing me today. My name is Ed Stout. I live at 378 Irvine Park in Four Seasons, and I've been there approximately 6 years now. I'd like to give you a handout here. What it is Exhibit F of the planting guidelines for Four Seasons. Just count my 3 minutes.
We'll pass it.
Who passed it?
Thank you. My home is on what we have referred to since we've been here, and were referred to when we had to sign the papers to pay the price for it, a view lot. and with, as you know, slopes go from the backyard down. And we have one of those. About sometime 2 to 3 years ago, we discovered that our view had been really impeded by growth on the top of the slope from the property below us. I call it below us. And so I approached a person at that address and advised what the problem was and asked that they would trim their plants down. It's formed a hedge. And the lady said that she wanted to consider it and talk to her gardener. And, so I thanked her. And several weeks later, when I hadn't heard from her, I approached again, and she advised me that she wanted to leave it remaining as it was for privacy purposes. And I advised her at that time that I had no interest in what was in her backyard. But we appreciated the view that we had previously, and we had been told that that cost us significantly more money when we bought the property. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, I noted that the hedge was about 4 feet tall. And as I sat on my patio, the best I could see was probably midline of the mountains over here, where previously we had probably close to a 180-degree view of town. Well, not close.
I understand, but the 3 minutes is up, sir.
Pardon?
The 3 minutes is,
Yeah, I figured that's what it was. Anyway, I didn't even present the problem. Basically, I wrote out the problem and I submitted it to this gentleman, and what I was told this last week when I submitted it was that what you have in front of you, Exhibit F, is history in a month or two. I think that's how he put it. And I don't know if that's firm yet or not, but I would ask you to consider yourself living in a view lot, maybe you do, and allowing somebody to grow a hedge on the other side of your wrought iron fence with no restriction. I mean, she had to cut the other day, and the poor man his height was such that he cut it like this. And he couldn't see what he was doing, but he cut it with his thing here and left the cuttings on top and went away. Put yourself in that place, if you will. I don't know what the future presents for the top of slopes, but you know, worst case scenario, you could have a 6-foot hedge there. If it comes to the board, or has come to the board, that this is going to be eliminated, I would sure like some protection for a very expensive view that I no longer have.
thank you, sir.
Answer any questions you might have, if that's allowable.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Gloria Johnson.
Okay, my name is Gloria Johnson, 1510 Baxter Woods. I want to address the August 2018, where Eric had the manager's report. Slurry and crack filler will increase asphalt for many years. The problem is that quite a few of the filled cracks have opened up again on Mission Trail, Baxter Woods, and other streets. Several new cracks have opened up around 3/8 of an inch wide a few months after the work was done. These streets are only about 4 years old. Streets that are about 10 years old hardly have any cracks. We should really find out why, and because this is a potential huge cost factor to our community in the future. The second thing I want to address is Eric's letter to me personally, which I received July 28, 2018. And it states the trees that have been planted within our community have been approved by the city. And this goes back at least 10 years. I request, since you put that in writing, I request that you provide me with that documentation of the landscape plan and approval for the 30-plus pine trees that are planted on the slope behind my property. Because the plan I received from Jerry Muko does not show most of those trees. The second letter, or the same letter, states that the area between canopies is a recommendation and not a requirement. The Fire Marshal's conditions of approval, dated September 13, 2017, states that it requires the following, and it applies to the Four Seasons community. Prune, these are the requirements, prune and thin trees at least 6 feet from ground, more on slopes or where there is underlying vegetation. Also, break up continuous canopy where limbs of one tree touch those of another. There shall be at least 20-foot spacing between tree canopies. We have several areas where especially the pine trees, 30-plus feet and higher, form basically a solid wall close behind homes. With the severe fires, and I think we can't ignore what's going on in Southern California, we are having, why are these requirements, according to Mr. Horner, our fire marshal, why are not they being taken seriously and implemented? Also, this report from Mr. Horner should be made available because it is very important information for our community, and that report should be made available to all residents, either on the internet, on the breeze, or wherever you publish information. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Documentation of the cracks. Please find out what the heck is going on in those streets, because we are responsible.
Next is the consent calendar. Purpose of the consent calendar is to make a single motion to approve all included items. If for a particular reason an item needs to be discussed or pulled from the consent calendar, then a call to remove that item should be made by the board member. On the consent calendar is the Secretary's report from the July 12th meeting, also the approval of the June 2018 financial statements, review and implementation of the CD and investment plan, approval of liens, of which there are two, BE 6310-0239-01, and also BE 6310-0541-04, and also a startup bond release, bond number 413-67160. Also a co-ed Bidwist group application, a birthday party for August 25th, and also a 45th wedding anniversary for May 13th of 2019.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next is a report on the executive session that was taken this morning. The board reviewed delinquencies. We had 0 foreclosure items and 8 member hearings. We renewed the janitorial contract for the next year in the amount of $330,000. The board reviewed legal issues and personnel issues. And then next are the committee reports, starting with the architectural committee.
Once again, we held through and kept doing what we always do. We've had a lot of contact from the city just recently about concerns that the city has rules and regulations that apply to Four Seasons as well. The architectural committee tries very, very diligently and very hard to make sure that any of the decisions that we make are in compliance with the city rules and regulations as well. We also work very hard to make sure that any of our guidelines match the city requirements, and in some cases, we may be more restrictive than the city, but we're never intentionally less restrictive. We are dealing with the city's requirement that the front yards have a certain percentage of live material. However, we don't direct KHOB and tell KHOB what to do. It appears to us that the existing homeowners that come in and want to change their front yard, in every instance, we do everything we can to assure that it meets those minimum greenery requirements. As always, we're still looking for another member. Anybody who has any interest, we encourage you to come to our meetings, the first and the third Wednesday of every month at 8:30 in the RNC conference room. And we're glad to have you show up just to see what's going on, whether you have any interest in the committee or not. We do see a lot of fun and interesting things in people's backyards, and we have some interesting contractors that show up and share some fun information with us. That is it.
Thank you, Steve. Next is the Breeze editorial.
Good thing I brought my notes, I can't see that. So hi, I'm Lori Larson, chair of the editorial board that puts out the Breeze. We have 8 members. We do have a few people who've been coming to meetings who seem to be interested. And we are always looking for people because we have such a wide variety of things that we do on the Breeze. So we're always looking for new members. So we want people who have good grammar and spelling skills, but that is not all by any means. We like people who enjoy a challenge, who want to share and to have others appreciate what they've done, and who doesn't like that, and who like to work both individually and as part of a team. We're continuing to explore ways to bring the community more involved with the Breeze. Don't listen to the words that come out of my mouth. I can write better than I can talk. My old age has removed part of my brain. The words don't always come out right. Anyway, not everyone who writes for the Breeze is part of the editorial board. Sometimes people have ideas for articles or columns, and they can pitch it to us. And if anybody is interested in coming to a meeting and pitching an idea to us, we'd be more than happy to have you. You can be on the editorial board and also a member of a committee. And we have 2 meetings a month, on the first Wednesday of every month at 10 o'clock, and on the 10th at 10. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Lori. Next is the Communications Committee.
Okay, we have here our people requesting us to place videos on the website of different events, and we're finding that if they're too large, most videos are, we can sometimes have a YouTube link to the video. So when we get requests, we will respond to let them know that we can make a link for YouTube. The committee is in the process of redesigning, with Cindy's help, the clubs, groups, and classes section, trying to make it more user-friendly so people can find what they're looking for without having to know if it's a club or a group or a class. We're also looking at the calendar is now on the website, exactly as it is in the Breeze. So that if you see all the calendar pages, I think there are 3 of them in the middle of the Breeze, you can also find them on the website. And we're going to be adding a feature to help keep that up to date. Because as you know, once it's been published in the Breeze, it's already old and older than today. And so as things change, we cannot update the Breeze. So we can put updates to your calendar items on the website. So be sure to let us know if something that's on the calendar has changed. So we can do that. We encourage people to look at the website then to find those changes. We've had questions regarding the security of the website. In our our webmaster Larry Workman has explained to me and wanted me to share here with the board that the fourseasonsbeaumont.org, which is our website address, is not secure. And a lot of people get this message that comes up depending on what type of a computer you use, that you are not in a secure website. However, if you click on a page such as a forum that has a link that you can fill out forms and have contact information, it will go to a different file server called fourseasonsbeaumont.club. So when you look at the address bar above and it says .club, you are now entering an SSL certified, certificated site. Is that all? Okay. Thought I had more. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra. Next is the Community Planning and Transition Committee. We have no report, but we do have 3 recommendations to add to the committee. Wayne Staples, let's see, David Brown, and Patrick Garrity.
We do it all 3 at once, or do we have?
That should be fine.
Okay. Do I have a recommendation to add?
I'll make a recommendation to add Wayne Staples, David Brown, and Patrick Garrity to the membership of the Community Planning and Transition Committee.
I'll second.
So moved and seconded to appoint these 3 members to Community Planning and Transition Committee. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Emergency Preparedness Committee.
The Emergency Preparedness Committee is in the process of getting our ducks in a row as far as putting a proposal to the Finance Committee for a budget. I've got word out to the First Aid to give us a list of supplies they might want or need, to the Communications Committee for any requirements for antennas or radios, and not radios, but batteries, and the Fire Suppression Team for anything necessary, maybe for an upgrade for maybe some extinguishers. We looked into the incident command system, and we're checking about the HOA board's comfort with the system. We got to find more people to get involved with the system. As part of that, I asked Dennis Day from EMD what the requirements would be for somebody wanting to be an incident commander for the emergency preparedness. He said basically it would be ICS 100, ICS 200, ICS 300, or 700, which are all classes through FEMA that are free to the public. And they can be taken online. We still got to get together Neighborhood Watch, because I've had a request from, actually from not Four Seasons, Sun Lakes, for probably their next drill. They were reaching out to us to try to help them. I don't know what they want from us. So they're going to ask to listen, or but I'd like to have some extra people. We need some people to try to interact with them. And we now have a liaison. Denise Featherstone is the liaison with Tails and Trails. She's going to help develop policy for our dogs during the emergency. And also she's going to bring back anything, the most recent information that we can get for the canine community, so we're not disseminating bad or old information. And as usual, anybody wishing to get involved with emergency preparedness, we meet the third Thursday of the month. Third Tuesday of the month. And we'll be there at August 21st, 10 a.m. in the RCN.
Thank you, Mike. Next is the Facilities Committee. Bruce?
Good afternoon. Just an update on several projects that Facilities is currently working on. First, the restroom handicap access at the Summit and the courts. We have management getting several bids together for that project, which basically puts in the installation of the automatic door openers, similar exactly to what we have here at the lodge to help our disabled residents with that situation. Also, we are working on replacing the roller shades here at the lodge, in the ballroom, even in the spa building, in the exercise room. Wherever we've had some of these shades have been around for a long time, they're broken and worn, need replacement. We'll get that taken care of shortly. And also the flooring in the exercise room in the spa building. Currently it's a tile type of floor. There's edges of the tiles that are coming up and that type of thing. We're going to replace it with a flooring that has a lot fewer seams to help prevent that in the future. A lot of weight on that floor. We did have a little survey on the color, so that'll be taken care of. Also, the facilities committee meets on the second Wednesday of the month in the RCN building. We are looking for another member or two if anybody's interested in serving the community. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Bruce. Next is finance with Barry.
Good afternoon, board and fellow homeowners. First thing I'd like to say is congratulations to Jolene for this appointment. Well-deserved, well-qualified person for that. It does put us in a pinch. We do have 2 openings, so I'll start with my bottom thing, that if anybody's interested in being on the finance committee, we have 2 openings right now. Looking at the financials, we should be pretty good if you followed this over the last 14 to 15 months. The reallocation of the HOA fee, taking some money from the reserve over to the operating budget, has caused us now to close our net income gap for this year to $8,600. So it's working. But understand, this is a fix right now temporarily in holding, because we had a surplus in our reserve funding that we could take a little bit of that money right now to cover operating expenses. But sometime or another, when we're all billed out, we're going to take a hard look at the expenses, which everybody's working on to really control in our spending, and see with all the new homes in here where we need to stand. And the likelihood of a potential HOA fee increase could come about. But you need to understand, we're going to have to sometimes start refunding our reserve fund to make sure that it's adequate for our future needs. But otherwise, what was executed, recommended by the Finance Committee and the board approved, is working very well right now. We will be looking at this at the end of the year. Our priority right now is it's the time of the year when we're preparing our budgets. We're getting the BRE budget in. We are looking at what we think is the right budget. We are meeting on the 20th with the committee chairs and we go over what we call their dream list. These are projects that are not identified that would be worthwhile projects, and we need to see where and if we can fit them into the budget. We will have those meetings, we will take those projects, and we will have them priced out, both reserve projects, which we should have money set aside for in our reserve, and for our normal budgetary things, and we'll present that to the board so the board can then make a determination and a priority on those. I was asked last month, and I had it on my slide, but I forgot to talk about it. There has been questions, although we did have an article in the Breeze about our investment strategy. We're all aware we have to invest that $7 million worth of monies we have in safe bets. We can't go on the stock market. We can't go over to Morongo Casino and say we know what we're going to do tonight. It has to be safe. It has to be insured. And the risk has to be minimal. So we're in CDs. And people say, well, what are we doing this laddering? Why are we buying CDs at different layers? The reason is, if you've noticed, if you follow these or have CDs yourself, you'll notice that these CDs have been steadily increasing over the last year and a half. When I took over being on the committee, we had CDs that were under 1%. Now we're seeing CDs in the 2% plus range right now. And you say, well, why don't we dump all our money when it expires into those? It isn't, because when you do it, you're stuck there. And there's a belief right now that these are going to steadily increase. So what we do is we put some money into the higher value ones, and we keep some of the money into short-term ones. And as they expire, we then take those expiring ones and put them into the next step up on the ladder, which we would hope would be 2.5%. And we keep laddering it up. And when you look at this, as opposed to putting all the money in the most current, highest rate one, it gives you a higher result. So that's what the laddering technique's about. It's something you may want to think about at home for your future planning. Next meeting is we're always the last Tuesday of the month, and we're meeting on the 28th in the RCM conference room. Please come.
Thanks, Ray. Next is landscape with Steve.
Hola, vecinos. Hey, you know, landscape, our big deal is to maintain what we have or to improve what we have, all within a budget, so finance and everybody is happy with that. So among the things, we've welcomed our new trees on Four Seasons to Beaumont with a good wind. So you may have noticed some of them are laying on their side currently, but they will be planted shortly, so that's a good thing. We've been working on in the Stellar Peak neighborhood for those streets to try to improve the landscaping along Stellar Peak, so we put some additional plants in there, which we think will look really nice. We're currently working on the plans for Trail D to get some trees on there in the future, and also for the roundabout by the courts there to get a good specimen tree in the middle, and that's one we may do in a phase. That's something that we've looked at more because of budgetary constraints, is doing things in phases where we don't necessarily do the whole project at once and incur that entire cost at one time. So among the things that will be in a phase thing will probably be the planters at the lodge, where we may remove the yuccas and things first and then work on the replacement for those things as money permits. We've also been working with First Services and Eric to try to fix some of the landscape concerns we have, original plantings that we have from some of the frost stuff first. We're trying to save money in some other ways too. We're going to do a couple test areas for different means of irrigation to try to be more efficient and more cost effective. And also, after we saw the bill for mulch, and after we picked ourselves up, then we decided that maybe we'd look at some mulch alternatives as well, that maybe we could get some extended life out of those. We've been working with the contractor also. We have some areas that we're not quite sure what is going on with some of the plants. We don't attribute it to frost or extreme heat or irrigation issues. We just don't know what the problem is. So they've been doing soil checks and everything else, and they're going to replace some of the plants that you may see that are dead, but they're trying to figure out what's going on before they go ahead and do that. Because they're plants that do really well, we don't know why they're not doing well. If you think, gosh, landscape sounds like so much fun, and the other committees do too, but if you're thinking, I'm holding out, we're a good one, so come check us out.
Thanks, Steve. Next is rules and regulations. Barbara?
Rules and reg, we're currently working with Larry Workman and Cindy Graves, trying to define each activity into a class, a group, or a club. And we have given ourselves a 2-month period to complete this project. We're meeting with the dog group and the Tails and Trails to create guidelines for our new off-leash dog park area. And Donna Lewis has been working very hard on this. We've had subcommittee meetings, and again, we hope within the next few months to have the rules ready for the board. We meet on the second Tuesday of the month. We haven't had our meeting yet, but if anyone would like to come, we're more than welcome to see you.
Thank you, Barbara. Next is the Safety Committee.
Anita Worthen, the chair of the committee, isn't here today, but she asked me to just reinforce, please slow down while driving through the community. She said that also stop signs are critical. When you come up to them, mean stop. It's not permissive where if you feel like it, stop. So please stop. We've had some close calls here, and also yield in the roundabouts to vehicles already in the roundabouts, and that will help us out. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Next is the Social Committee, which we take care of with the city. And since there's no Anita, there's no community ambassador right now. So now we'll go back to Cindy with the Activities Director report.
Yeah, we'll make it. How about that? All right, so don't forget that the next summit will be is Friday, August 24th. Last month was a total blast, and we didn't hear one complaint from the neighbors. So I think our techies did a great job positioning the sound. We'll be settling in at about 8 p.m. And as soon as it gets dark, usually around 8:15, 8:30 is when we're gonna get going on it. Let's see, bring your own lawn chairs, and keep in mind that we're asking you to wait until 6 p.m. to put your chairs down. We actually only had about 50 people or so that actually came to the movie, but it was really fun. And we ended up with a big prize that was given away, which we'll have another prize just for showing up. You'll be put in a raffle. So that's fun. Bring your candy or your popcorn or whatever you want to do. And it's just beautiful. We had perfect weather last time. The movie, the schedule is called The New Overboard movie with Anna Faris. So if you haven't seen that one yet, come on over. It's just a fun evening, and it's free, of course. The Amphitheater Concert Series. Love this. This is going to be so exciting. Sunday, August 19th, is the anniversary of Woodstock. So we are having a Woodstock-themed concert, and for fun, we're asking that you send your late 60s, early 70s pictures of yourself to me, I'm in the breeze, via email so that we can project these photos behind the Santana Band during the concert. The last day to get these pictures into me is this coming Monday, next Monday. There will also be more surprises to come, and you're encouraged to dress up for this concert in your 60s and 70s outfits that you haven't put on for a long time. And we actually have an assigned photographer and a 60s backdrop too. So it's just going to be a fun big one. I dare you. I dare you to do it. There you go. And if you like the TV show Password, then you're going to love the Gale Games Password. That's going to be on August 31st at 6 p.m. in the ballroom. There will be lots of brain wheels turning as prizes are being awarded there. It's always fun. You'll love it. And you get your money's worth because it's free. So come on out. It's going to be here in the lodge ballroom. And next, karaoke is going to be in the Lodge Ballroom on Saturday, August 18th, this month, from 5:30 to 8:30. It's always a blast. So if you like pointing at your neighbors and seeing them in new ways as they express their vocal skills, that's always fun. Bring your favorite beverage and your snacks. And the Performing Arts Club is going to be presenting another old-timey live radio show from WFSB Radio in the Lodge Ballroom. The show is on Saturday, August 25th, and starts at 6 p.m. There's also no charge to attend that. And they're going to be very dramatic because they've been giving themselves acting lessons so that they can speak the radio along with action. Kind of like a play, kind of not. So I dare you, bring your dinner in and you'll have a good time. There you go. What?
Thing up with this, if it matters, Sunday, August 18th, means Saturday, right?
Yes.
Just so everybody shows up.
Okay. Yes, definitely. That is a typo. It is Saturday. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Sandra. Of course. Yay, Sandra. Okay, everything else should be good. Yeah, I know.
Thank you, Cindy.
Okay.
Next is the management report and communications on pages 76 through 87. There's no action unless there's any questions. Next is new business. Start on page 88. First is 80 through 92, which is the removal of the yucca plant from the front of the lodge planter in the amount of $1,818 from the landscape committee.
I'll go ahead and motion that we approve the removal of the yucca plant in the front lodge planter in the amount of $1,818.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the recommendation to remove yucca plants. Any discussion? Why don't we have a picture of a nice blooming live one up there when we're removing the dead ones?
Snails.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next on pages 93 through 97 is the removal of the yucca plant from the back of the lodge planter in the amount of $2,034.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the yucca removal in the back of the lodge planter in the amount of $2,034.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve yucca removal in the back of the lodge planter. Any discussion?
Is it a bigger one? Why is it more?
It is bigger. It is bigger.
We fit the picture. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next on pages 98 and 99 is another proposal from the Landscape Committee for tree trimming on White Sands of the African sumac in the amount of $2,015.
Make the motion that we approve the expenditure of $2,015 trimming the African sumac trees.
Second.
And second down in the
It's been moved and seconded to approve removal of the African sumac trees on White Sands. All in favor?
Aye.
Trim.
Or trim, excuse me.
31 trees.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next on pages 100 through 102 is a proposal to mulch the front yard cost center for an amount of $8,595. That would come out of the front yard cost center budget.
I make the move that we spend $85.95 to replace the mulch, the cost center.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve purchasing the front yard cost center budget mulch for a cost of $85.95. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next is to a proposal to mulch the common area in the amount of $21,600. Yes, Steve.
I make the motion that we spend $21,600 to replace the mulch in the common area.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve purchasing mulch for the common area at a cost of $21,600. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next is a proposal from the Rules and Regulations Committee to create an ad hoc committee to establish guidelines for a proposed off-leash area. So this would create the committee, and the next month they'll have members to fill the committee.
I make the motion that we create an ad hoc committee to deal with the off-leash area.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the establishment of an ad hoc committee for rules for the off-leash area. Any discussion?
I didn't think we had ad hoc committees anymore. We still have ad hoc committees?
Yeah, we make it for temporary purposes.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next is a proposal from the Activities Director to have a holiday home tour with Terry Fears on December 15th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. At no cost to the association.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Terry Fears Holiday Home Tour activities as indicated by the Activities Director.
Second.
Yeah, it's been moved and seconded to approve Terry Fears Holiday Home Tour. Proceeds going to feed the homeless at Carol's Kitchen. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next on page 109 is another proposal from the Activities Director for a 2018 art fair to be held here in the ballroom on Friday, September 14th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Total cost is $1,400.
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation of the Activities Director for a 2018 art fair at the cost of $1,400.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the Activities Director's recommendation for a 2018 art fair at a cost of $1,400. Any discussion? Motion carries. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next on page 110 is a Veterans Day proposal from the Activities Director. Total cost would be $1,365.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Veterans Day 2018 proposal in the amount of $1,365 for our veterans.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the proposal for a Veterans Day event at a cost of $1,365. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And lastly is another proposal from the Activities Director for a holiday extravaganza to be held on 2 days, on Friday, November 30th and Saturday, December 1st, here in the ballroom. Time to be determined. Total cost, $1,158.
Again, I'll make the motion to approve the holiday extravaganza in the amount of $1,158 as prepared by the Activities Director.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the holiday extravaganza for a cost of $158. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And that concludes new business. The next meeting will be here on September 13th at 1 p.m.
No further business to come before the meeting. It is adjourned.